Okay. All right, so we're going to wrap up our series on the alchemy of conscious creation. So let me remind us the definition of alchemy: a seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or combination. Transformation, creation, or combination. So I love to think of us as blended beings. We're blended, we're spiritual and human. We're ultimately spiritual, living in human form. We're creating in a spiritual world. We sometimes forget, we think it's only 3D physical, but it's more than that. There's this energy, as Einstein taught many, many years ago, everything's energy. Energy is in motion, energy isn't stagnant. So it is always creating. By our focus, we get to decide, what do we create? How do we flow that energy? How do we form that energy? And that's why in the title for today's lesson, I mentioned pure focus. We want to live from a joyful flow of the energy with pure focus. Because as we focus, we're forming energy. That's the gift of co-creation that we have, being one with our Creator. Not all of Creator, but one with Creator. Like the ocean, we're the wave in the ocean. We're 100% ocean water. We're 100% life force energy. We're not all of us, in and of ourselves, are not all of life force energy. We're not all of God. But we are divinity in expression. So we started with the idea of knowing. I in my years of working with people in metaphysics in various ways, teaching little ones, teaching adults, prayer chaplain, spiritual leader, people get so excited. We start with that knowing. That's how we start our spiritual awakening. It's a knowing. It does begin intellectually, but it's deeper. It's like you just have a sense of, you know, the truth of it. It resonates. Right? When somebody says something to you, you know, if you open and you really start listening between the lines, you might say, but energetically, you know if it's true for you, right? It might be absolutely true in terms of it's their perception. They're not deceiving you. They're sharing their perception that is 100% accurate for them, but it might not be your perception of life. So it's not true for you. If you try to make that true, that's what we talked about in the last week, the second of the 3 lessons, is then you become open to criticism, even praise. You become molded by other people's ideas rather than master of your own energy, choosing for yourself knowing who you are, and then choosing how to be that in the world. And you be that by becoming vibrationally one with it, by resonating at the same frequency of that which you want to create. If you want to create more love and truth and beauty in the world, you can't do that walking around being critical and grumpy. If you're walking around being critical and grumpy, guess what you're creating more of? Mm-hmm. Problems to solve, things to be grumpy about. And it's interesting because you'll be looking at, we can all be looking at the same unfolding, the same experience. We can be looking at somebody walking in the room dancing with peacock feathers. And we can think that is like, wow, isn't that cool? That she's happy and free and sharing that joy. Or we can be grumpy and irritable and going, she's kind of disrupting, blah, blah, blah. You know, we could be negative, right? Which one's true? Well, each one is true for that person's perspective. It's not true for what she's experiencing. Well, what if she takes it in and doesn't, which we didn't do, but what if she took it in and stopped being this beautiful light that she is? And I know you're not shy, so I'm sharing you as an example, because that was a beautiful example of we can be our true selves. And it takes courage sometimes, because it can trigger other people. So it can trigger somebody who doesn't feel comfortable to be that open. And I invite you to see it differently if it does ever trigger you, anything like that. And we all have things that trigger us. We all do. I invite you to see it differently. When you feel that, what you call a trigger, or you start to feel sort of it's a constriction of energy. It's like a criticism or I don't know, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a good thing to be doing. I don't know if I should join in with that happening. Maybe I should look away. It's too much joy. I love the question, how much joy can you take? Right? Yeah. And see, it can actually, it's really true. It can it's a weird thing, but it's very true. It can trigger somebody who's not comfortable opening to love, joy, truth, beauty. It can also inspire them, so please don't stop, right? But do it for you. Don't do it for them, but it will bless everyone. It blesses them even if they get triggered. You know why? Because it gives them the opportunity to choose again. It gives them the opportunity to examine, why did that bug me? Why didn't I think that was, if not wonderful, at least just like benign, Like, that's cool. That's who she is. I don't want to do that, but I think it's cool that she does it. It can also be wow, I want to live a little more like that in my life, So that's what we talked about last week about this, and we're using this book. It's listed in your program, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani, founder of Mind Valley. And Vishen, as some of you know from the first 2 weeks, Vishen he's trained as an engineer. He's an engineer at Microsoft, and realized that's not what he wanted to do. He worked really hard to come over to the United States and do that, and his parents spent a lot of money helping him get that college education, and he was good at it, but he was not fulfilled by it. So then he realized what he was really interested in doing is what he calls consciousness engineering. So we spoke about that in the first week, about the knowing and the bending reality, where we now understand that there's this point, and we in our group we love to use. You probably saw our signs. Those of you who haven't seen them before, we love to use the infinity symbol as part of our logo, and we use it as an ocean wave since we're by the ocean. But think about, it's that point in the middle where the bending reality is where you merge the totally being at peace with what is. You're fully present. You felt it when I said that the first time. It's like everybody went present. You're fully present. And you're open to infinite possibilities. You're both simultaneously. That's the alchemy of conscious creation. That's the alchemy of a miracle. That's that combustion point. That's where energy can take form. Energy can change. That's when the healing in the body happens. That's when the healing in the energy dynamic that we call a relationship. We have relationships with everything because everything's energy. And we are a radiating center of energy. So we are in relationship constantly with everything in our energy field. How about that? And when we know that, then we can be one with that flow. And now we can live from it and go out into the world with much more joy, much more ease, consciously creating what we choose, as opposed to unconsciously fueling the things we don't want more of because they've gotten our attention. Use them absolutely to inform you what doesn't feel good. So I teach it a little differently from some of the metaphysical teachings. I don't believe in this, we live in this bliss state all the time. I don't believe that. I do believe that we have the power to live much more joyfully and easily than most of us do. And we, in this group, we live pretty happy lives, but we have our stuff too. We're still evolving and growing, and we will be as long as we're in human form. we need to not judge that as bad or wrong. It's the experience we came for. I just call it an upward spiral. You elevate up and you expand out. You kind of adjust to this new vibration, and then you go again. And as you're going again, it's a little bit wobbly. It's like kicking off the training wheels. You're a little wobbly there for a minute, and then you got it. But then you go again, and then you go again, and then you go again. So we keep growing, expanding, evolving. Because we're spiritual at our core, there is no limit to the capacity that we can expand and evolve into energetically. And so we can keep experiencing all the physical things. They're more like, the physical is like the confirmation of what our energy is. So we used the term last week, the first week we talked about bending reality, that little center point, and then last week we talked about, Vishen talks in his book about choosing between, do you have to choose to be a Buddha or a badass, or do you really need to be both to be in the human world? And he uses a term, and we altered it because it uses a 4-letter word that triggers people. It starts with the letter F. So we altered it to say unmesswithable. Yeah, unmesswithable. He uses a different version of it. And I want to remind you the definition of that. Unmesswithable. When you're truly at peace and in touch with yourself, nothing anyone says or does bothers you, and no negativity can touch you. And he goes on to say, I'll remind us this part. Extraordinary minds do not need to seek validation from outside opinion or through the attainment of goals. Instead, they are truly at peace with themselves and the world around them. They live fearlessly, immune to criticism or praise, and fueled by their own inner happiness and self-love. So last week, remember, we talked about self-fueled end goals. Self-fueled. You choose to bring in a peacock feather because you love peacock feathers, not to get other people's attention or for them to give you some kind of validation, right? For the joy of it, for the joy within you. And we talked a lot about how we want to learn to have self-fueled goals, meaning you're just wanting to continue to expand and know more who you are and be more truly who you are, the true essence of you, as opposed to, well, I'll act this way because that way either it'll prove my worthiness because people will then give me praise, or I will avoid criticism, so I'll behave a certain way to placate people who get grumpy and irritable if I don't do what they want, right? I mean, that's a terrible conundrum to balance back and forth, isn't it? And yet, it is actually what the world teaches us we have to do if we let the world dictate to us who we need to be. And I gave the example of you can walk into any room and you cannot have 100% approval of everybody in that room about something as simple as what you're wearing, how you dress, how you do your hair, your glasses, your jewelry. Something benign that's it's not who you are, but isn't it interesting how people will take some little something and try to assign meaning to it? And Vishen talked about that in his book, is that he calls it, our brains, we have to remember our brains are meant to serve us, not run us. They're amazing, powerful, not machines, but it's an amazing piece of equipment that we are given, and we're meant to use it to tell our bodies what to do, how to be. And we're meant to use it, it's like it receives energy and adjusts it and then flows it back out in the world. But who gives it the instruction? The self, that observer self, our spiritual self. So we want to learn not to walk around being these little robots that everything that's said, we're like recording it going, okay, now I have to do that. Okay, now I have to do that. Goodness. And that's what the social media is so good. It connects us. Just don't let it run us. Use it to connect. Don't use it to feel not enough. Right? So we're going to go into the not enough part. And in this part of the book, this is what he calls the second component of being unmessable. And he talks about, one of the ladies that he's brought into Mind Valley as a teacher is Marissa Peer. Do any of you know Marissa Peer? She's from Great Britain, and she's a leading hypnotherapist in the world. Really brilliant. And her entire work is helping people heal from the wound of I am not enough. And he talks about how we have to realize that these things come to us in these like little ways. It could be something as a child. It could be something a teacher said. It could be something our peers, on the playground, kids said to us. It could be something a parent said in a very loving moment, not meaning it, and we interpret it. We give things meaning. It doesn't mean that's the intention the person had who said or did that, right? And it's important for us to learn how to discern. Okay, when somebody says this, what do they really mean? And sometimes they can't even tell us. And that's where we want to pay more attention to the energy and the vibration, because it clears up a whole lot of confusion. And then we don't have to spend all these times with the verbosity of sorting it out when the word I use triggers this meaning in somebody when that's not at all what I meant. So now we're going to go round two, and then they say something and I don't understand it because I would use that word differently. And if we lock into that, we're in this energy entanglement all the time with somebody somewhere or a situation. And we can choose instead to manage our energy field, to come from the heart. We're going to spend the month of February focusing on that, living from the heart in a way that is very balanced and where we feel the strength of that, because it is strong. Divine love is powerful. It is the force, the creative force in life is divine love. And the creative force of life is what makes life keep going. And it is eternal and it won't stop. We get to choose to flow with it or resist it. And when we flow with it, we have more energy, we have more aliveness, we have more joy, and we have the power of the universe supporting us in what we're creating. Instead of us trying to do it as this mere human, the example I give a lot is moving the mountain by carrying around a shovel and digging up a big old mountain, when we have this power that can move that obstacle for us, right? In ways that are loving. Because when we try to create outside in, it's not loving, it's harsh. In order for me to feel happy standing right here, if I need each one of you to do a certain thing, what if I need you all to sit a certain way? So I don't interpret it like, ooh, they're not liking what I'm saying, or, what if I need everybody in this room to sit a certain way for me to be comfortable being up here? Well, that would be a miserable experience for you, wouldn't it? Me too, because the chance of it happening is pretty slim. Maybe for a split second, right? But do you see that is so much of how we live in the world? It's how we're taught to live in the world. Line everything up around us to make us all comfortable and secure. It's a false security. That's not self-fueled happiness. We do want to have wonderful goals and dreams and aspirations based on our self-fueled ability. And that ability comes from aligning with God force, life force, infinite intelligence. So one of the things he talks about, this is the second element of being unmesswithable, how to become immune to others' behaviors, their criticism or their judgments. And he talks about how, we just have this pattern in humanity that's been with us a long time, and it may always be with us, but it's taught for us to immediately, in a millisecond, assign a meaning. You can call it judging if you want, but I think it makes more sense if you understand it's like somebody doing some tiny little thing in the room right this minute. I can assign a meaning to that. It's based on my perception. It's not based on that person at all, right? It's really interesting how we do that. And the more we can free ourselves of it, we may not be able to stop doing it in that split moment, but you know what we can do is we can realize we're doing it and make a choice what to do with that information. We can make a choice to go within and learn to process it with infinite intelligence, giving us the awareness and the guidance. We can learn to feel, okay, that's the triggered an emotion that feels negative. Don't deny it. It's information you need. It's either information to let you know there is something going on that is probably not good for you to be a part of. You might want to leave the room or go somewhere else. You might need to leave that relationship, or at least alter the relationship, the dynamic that you're playing out. Or it could be just very simply, it's triggering a meaning that you've assigned that you don't know, you habitually assign to that kind of behavior from someone, anyone. You keep assigning a meaning that is based on something going on in you that has nothing to do with the intention of that person. Sometimes you're reading it correctly and sometimes you're not. Well, how do you sort that out? It's not just your brain, because your brain's just trying to keep you safe. That reptilian brain is always going to go, no, danger, danger. You know, anything that we don't know what to do with, it might be dangerous. So you have to let that give you information, and then you, the self, the mind of you, that is your divine self, decide how to process that information. Use the information to serve you. Don't let it run you, right? So he goes on to talk about the not enough dilemma. Marissa Peer calls this the biggest disease affecting humanity. The biggest disease affecting humanity. Now, Vishen says, it's nearly impossible to go through childhood without some situation or person infecting you with the belief that you are not enough. Because the model of reality that we are not enough is terribly painful, we live our lives then trying to prove that we're enough. Once we get that little infection, that little virus, then we go around trying to prove it. We don't even know sometimes we're doing that. Sometimes this can be an asset. For example, his drive to prove that he was enough led him to a certain degree of entrepreneurial success. And he goes on to say, but it's not the optimal path, because working to disprove the model of not being enough, the model of reality, perspective of not being enough, has a hidden cost. That cost is that you will depend on others for validation. And he gives some examples. You may come home from work and expect to be greeted or treated in a certain way by your spouse. If this does not happen, you feel out of sorts or rejected. You may expect to be praised, noticed, or have your ideas heard by your boss or a superior at work. If that doesn't happen, you decide that you are not appreciated, not respected, or that your boss is an asshole. Or maybe your son or daughter doesn't call you enough, or a brother or sister doesn't remember your birthday in the way you expect. Boom, the feeling creeps back in. In all of these situations, chances are you won't literally think, I'm not enough. No, the sneaky thing about this model of reality is that if you have it, it's hard to admit you have it, or even to realize that it's there. So instead, you bury it, and you create a model of reality about the person you're seeking validation from, also known as a judgment. Your brain's meaning-making machine goes into overdrive. This is the most disempowering kind of model to have, because you're blaming outside circumstances for what happens in your life. This model robs you of your own ability to control your life. While you can't control what others do, you can control how you react to others. In order to be truly unmesswithable, you need to lose your need to seek validation or love from others, and that same need then to judge them when you perceive that they are not giving you what you need. Now, I want to clarify something. We all want to be loved. Nothing wrong with that. We want to be loved. It's not, what he's talking about is not giving up the desire to have loving relationships. It's the demand that somebody love you, and it expresses ABC behavior. You see the difference? Because we all express love in different ways, and there are days when we're really open and our energy's flowing and we can express love more freely, and there's days where maybe we don't feel good or something's happened and we're kind of distracted in our minds and we don't express love as freely. Doesn't mean we don't love the people we love when we're not our best self, does it? So if we demand love look a certain way, now we're setting up ourselves and our loved ones to be in this dance of confusion and chaos that just keeps everybody unhappy and on edge, and that's not good. And that's what we see playing out in the world. That's the basis of every argument. That's the basis of what turns into wars. That's the basis of all that mudslinging in politics. You know, we have prove who is the most enough, right? And disprove who is the most not enough, you know? Yeah. So we don't want to do that. So he offers a solution. The good news. He offers a solution. And I have a solution. I'm going to add my piece to it. So he says we want to go from whole, like an empty hole, to whole with the W, whole. When you create meaning around others' action or judge others who don't provide what you need, chances are you're really just compensating for a hole within yourself that they reminded you of. That's where that word trigger, you can say you get tweaked, you get triggered, when you find yourself upset, it's triggering something you're missing for yourself that you would like to have. A sense of self-love, a sense of remembering the truth of who you are. You're connected to divinity. So you're not enough. No matter what, you are enough. If you disconnect, you feel not enough, but that's not the truth of who you are. It's just a momentary feeling you're going through from that disconnection with life force. And when you do that, then he goes on to say, then you look to others for validation, love, or praise, and then you feel hurt when you observe what feels like criticism, judgment, or rudeness. But remember, you're in control of filling the hole within. And here's the paradox. When you plug this hole within yourself and stop demanding that others fill it for you, you actually improve the chances of having the kind of great relationships you long for. There is nothing more attractive than a person who loves himself or herself so deeply that their positive energy and love spill over to others and to the world. So one of the things I like to think about love, and like I said, we're really going to focus on it next month, being February, Valentine's, all that. Love isn't this activity. Love is an energy. Love is it's a vibration. We need to learn to be love instead of wanting somebody to give us love. And we also need to not feel obligated to give love. Not because it's not wonderful to share love and joy, but sometimes we are so determined to share love and in a way that doesn't feel good to somebody. And we mean well. But if you just be love, you just choose to be the energy of love. The person who is looking for that love in that moment will be magnetized into your energy field. It's science, it's proven. And they will be fulfilled, and they will receive love. And it feels good to share love. But if you need to share love to feel happy, see, now you've set yourself up again. It's not self-fueled. You can share love without saying a word, without doing a thing. You can be one with nature. You can be one with a bird. You can be one with the ocean. You can be one with each other right now in this moment and share love without requiring it looking like you doing something or somebody else doing or saying something. And then what happens, the doing and the saying that flows out of it will be very pure, and it will be positive for everyone experiencing it. Now, sometimes it's positive because it's exactly what they want to receive, and sometimes it's positive because it reminds them, like he just said in the book, it reminds them of an absence, a hole in themselves that they're ready to have filled. It's not done to, the universe doesn't bring that awareness to us to hurt us. It's a gift of awareness. If somebody waltzing in the room, enjoying music, triggers something like, ooh, I wish I had more freedom to do that. That's not meant to hurt you. That's meant to call you forward. All right, so we're going to go through a process. One of the most important elements, and Vishen goes into this, to help you when you're out in the world and you get distracted and you find yourself either trying to prove or placate. You're trying to prove yourself to somebody, or trying to placate somebody who's upset, right? You've lost touch with you. Jesus said to be in the world but not of it. So you become of it. You're not in the world being true to you, being aligned with who you are, living as you are. And we all do it, little bit. Hopefully we catch it little, because if we wait till it gets big, it's kind of hard, and then it can be painful, but we can still do it. So one way to do that is, and I love this focal point, so I'm going to do this focal point before we do the meditation. So I'd like everyone to look at the peacock feather. This is a practice in being present. You can do this anywhere. You can be in a group anywhere. Just observe the peacock feather. Just take 1 minute. Notice the colors. Notice the texture. Notice the shape, the different shapes. Everyone became present doing that. Now you come back to whatever else you're doing. Look what different energy you bring. You're aligned, you're more open, you're more grounded, you're more you. So that's a little simple trick you can do anytime, anywhere. Whenever your brain is taken off making meaning of something that's gotten you all out of you, this is how you come back to you. Look at something and just get lost in it for 1 minute, just 1 minute. Didn't that feel good? Okay. Let's do our meditation process. Will somebody give the lights? Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Okay, everybody, take a deep breath. Exhale with sound. That opens the vagus nerve, which is good for all our organs, helps us get grounded. Another deep breath. And now a soft breath. And exhale gently. We're going to do the third round of a meditation this month called Renew the Foundation. Picture a beautiful candle. The candle is lit. The candle is in front of you. Observe the flame. It's flickering. You can hear it. Observe the color of the candle. Observe the fragrance. Is it scented? Perhaps you're just smelling the wax. That's a lovely fragrance. the light of this candle symbolizes the light of your being, the light of your spiritual essence. Take a breath, please. Now feel the light of that candle coming into your being. It's in the very center of your being. Take another breath, please. And now allow the light coming from the candle to expand beyond your physical presence. A foot outside of you, 2 feet, maybe 3 feet. Allow that light to just become this beautiful cocoon of light around you. And as I speak this meditation, I'd like you to hear it as your words, your inner self speaking to you. In this moment, I acknowledge the absolute creator of the entire universe. This absolute energy, absolute intelligence, the absolute presence in and through all of creation is all that there is. I recognize the divine intelligence in all things and relax into the knowing that I am part of this intelligence and all of divine creation. I am a divine creation. Take a breath, please. Today, as I contemplate the perfection of the divine intelligence, I find myself in complete awe and gratitude, for I know that I am an individualized expression of this power and presence. Scripture confirms that knowingness by its statement that I am made in the image and likeness of it. I accept that knowingness as my truth. Wow, how powerful is that? I am capable of infinite possibilities because I am a divine emanation of the Most High. Take another breath, please. I speak forth a renewal to the foundation of my faith in the divine. I choose to create within me a new spirit, a clean heart full of love. My joy is restored within me. I love that I get to create my life. My journey continues with a renewed sense of purpose. My steps are guided by the divine whisper in my soul. Each step I take through my day is met with love and an ever-flowing bounty of possibilities. I keep my thoughts, my actions stayed on the knowingness that I am creating a new world for myself. The desires of my heart are manifesting right here and now. My heart is open to infinite possibilities because I am vibrating with the One. I speak my truth into the universal mind of possibilities. My foundation has a new bond of mortar protecting my mind, keeping it focused on my new reality of infinite possibilities. Take another breath, please. In gratitude for this renewal, for this divine freshness pouring in and around me, I give total thanks for the law of pure potentiality, which allows me to start anew with each and every day. From this place of potentiality, I release this spiritual mind treatment into the law of action, feeling the blessed assurance of the divine. I let it go and let it be so. And now just sit for just one moment. Just sit and feel the light that is you. It is your divine essence. It is your connection to life force, divinity, the power and the presence of all that is. It is this oneness from which you can create love, truth, beauty in the world, your unique expression of it, as you are designed to do. It is the truth of who you are. It is the joy of aliveness in this time and space.